Continue learning about how to use colors in CSS. So it's now we want to add other details to the markers, starting with the first one. Okay, so in the first marker div element, we want to change the class from 1 to red. Okay, because eventually the first marker will end up being red. Okay, as we have here, this one will be green and blue. All right, so let's continue. Use the one CSS rule to target the new red class. Okay, so because we changed the name here from 1 to red, we can see that this styles here is no longer applied, and so because of that, this first marker now changes from black background to a white background. So to fix that, you need to change this one class here to red, because that's the name of the class we have here. And once we do that, we get the background color back. Okay, all right, so next up, we want to update the RGB function in the red CSS rule so that it is red value at the maximum. So to do that, we just change the red value, which is currently 0, to 255. Next, we also want to change the class 2 to green in the second marker div, and in the third marker div, we want to change the class 3 to blue. So change 2 here to green, and change 3 here to blue. And again, just like before, because we've changed the class name, we also have sort of taken away these styles from them. So now we don't see the black markers. So the way we want to fix that is to change this 2 here to green, and change this 3 here to blue. Okay, all right, now once we've done that, we want to move on to something else, which is called the hex values. Okay, so hex values is also another common way to apply color to an element in CSS. So they are either called hexadecimal or hex values. So while hex value sounds complicated, they are really just another form of RGB values. Okay, so the way we write hex values is a little bit different from how we write RGB values, but the concept is similar. So the hex value starts with a hash character, and then it takes 6 characters from 0 to 9 and A to F. Okay, so the first pair of the characters represent the red value, the second pair represent the green value, and the third pair represent the blue value. Okay, so just like this, we have the hash, the first 2 characters, 4B represent the red value, 53 here represents the green value, and 20 here represents the blue value. Okay, so in the green class selector, which we have here, we want to change this from RGB to hex values. So the way we do that is to first write our hash sign like this, and then write the first 2 values, which is 0, 0, the second 2 values, which is FF, and the third value, which is 0, 0. So now once we do that, it means we want 0 of red, FF, which is green at its fullest, and we also want 0 of blue. So now we are left with the color green. Okay, so you may already be familiar with decimal numbers, which is counting from 0 all the way to 9. And then once we get to 9, we start from 1 0, which is 10, 1 1, which is 11, 1 2, which is 12, 1 3, which is 13. So we get to 1 9, which is 19. And then once we get to 1 9, which is 19, we come back to 2. And then we start 2 0, which is 20, 2 1, which is 21, all the way to 29. Once we get to 29, we come back to 3, and we start again 3 0. So we keep going in that order. The same principle applies to the base 16 value. So base 16 start from 0 to 9, and then from 9, instead of coming to start from 1 0, which is 10, it continues to A, B, C, D, and F. Okay, so once you get to F, we start again from F0, F1, F2, F3, all the way to FF. Then we come back and begin. So it's basically the same principle. Instead of doing 0 to 9, we do 0 to F. All right. With hex values, 00 is 0% of that color, and FF is 100% of that color. So hash 00, FF00 means 0 of red, 100% of green, and then 0 of blue. Okay, and this will translate to RGB as RGB 0, 255, and then 0. All right, so we want to lower the intensity of green by setting the green value to the hex color of 7F. Okay, so we are targeting the green value, which is here, and we want to change it to 7F. Okay, now that sort of reduces the intensity or the shade of the green value. All right, next up, we also want to learn about another color model, which is called HSL. Now, HSL stands for hue, saturation, and lightness. And just like the RGB, it's also just another way of representing colors. Okay, so the HSL, just like the RGB, also takes 3 values. The first value is a number from 0 to 360, which is for hue. The second value is a percentage from 0 to 100, which is for saturation. And the third value is a percentage from 0 to 100, which is for lightness. So if you imagine a color hue, the hue red is at 0 degrees, the green is at 120 degrees, and blue is at 240 degrees. Okay, saturation is the intensity of the color from 0% to the high intensity, which is 100%. Okay, and lightness is how bright a color is, which starts from 0% to complete darkness or black, which is 100%. And white is 50%, which is neutral. Now, if to better understand this HSL, I also have this article here from Temitope on Log Rocket. It's a really detailed article. It goes into what HSL is and explain the various components. It explains hue, saturation, and it also explains lightness, okay, and how to use them as well. So I will highly encourage you to read this article. I'll leave a link to the article in the description below so you can check it out. All right, let's move on. So in the blue CSS, we'll use the HSL function to change the background color to pure blue. And the way you do that is to set the hue. So first you write your HSL and then you bring your bracket. The first value is going to be 240, which stands for hue. Saturation will be 100%. And the lightness will be 50%. Okay, so now that changes the color to blue. Okay, so you've learned a few ways to set flat colors in CSS, but you can also use a color transition or gradient on an element. A gradient is when a color transition from one to another. Okay, so the CSS linear gradient function lets you control the direction of the transition along the line and which colors are used. All right, one thing to remember is that the linear gradient function actually creates an image element and is usually paired with the background property, which can accept an image as a value. Okay, so let's see how we can do that. But first, let's change the background color property for the red. Okay, in the CSS red value, in the CSS red CSS rule, change the background color property to background. Okay, so instead of background color, we'll do background. Okay, now the way you use the linear gradient function is very flexible. So here's how you use it. Let me copy this so that you see the full thing. Okay, so you write linear gradient, which is the property, then you bring your bracket, your two brackets. The first value should be the gradient direction. Okay, and usually you set this as a degree. Okay, we'll do an example and you see what it means, and you can add the various colors. So it should definitely be more than one color. You can be two or more colors. So let's see how to actually write this. So just clean this one here, and we set the background property to linear gradient. Okay, and the first value will be the gradient direction, which is 90 degrees, like so. Okay, all right, so we'll end it here for this one, and then in the next video we'll continue working on this linear gradient function. All right, so thanks for watching this one, and see you in the next lesson.